at the
For the next one.
Yes.
We'll do a double month. Okay. All
I
right.
was not here at the last one.
Yeah. Public comments and appearances. If you have any public comments or appearances, you have up to 3 minutes to present to the Planning Commission. Is there anyone with any public comments or appearances? Any public comments? Excellent. Oh, it's exciting. We've got a, yeah, we've got a.
Wow.
Name and address, please, sir.
527 West Foster Street. My wife and I are here to support the outdoor dining feature of for the new inventors. We've been enjoying that place for as long as I've been in town, 3.5, 4 years now. We love the family-friendly atmosphere there. I think the outdoor dining experience enhances that, allows you to bring your dogs, pets, well, maybe I should say pets. One day some lady brought her snake, a white snake, wrapped around her arm. But it gets better. Then she took it inside. She wasn't there long. So, but anyway, so no snakes at the new place, please. I think with the tourist season coming up, this is prime for this place, obviously. Things are heating up there. If you have the outdoor seating to the east, obviously, and to the south, I don't think you can have it anywhere else. But with the marina right there, especially the boaters that were docking our boats, see people out there having a good time and raising a few, I think it's just really going to enhance the business. So we're really hoping that this would be allowed to be brought over to the new place. And I guess that's about it. So,
Excellent, thank you.
okay.
Anyone else get confused with the White Snake reference? Did you think Here I Go Again? The song? Okay. We'll play that at the end of the meeting for everyone if they don't know what I'm talking about. Any other public comments or appearances? Okay, seeing none, we'll move right into the next agenda item, which is a conditional use grant and consideration of possible action on a conditional use grant for a private ambulance service and crew quarters located at the Harbor Campus Senior Living Community, 425 West Walter Street. The Planning Commission is being asked to provide a recommendation to the Common Council for a conditional use grant request to allow the ambulance service and crew quarters located to operate out of the Capri Harbor Campus facility. Mr. Harris.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me just turn to this agenda item. As noted, this is a conditional use request for private ambulance services at the Capri Harbor campus. The zoning text change for this item, related to this item, was before this commission at its March meeting, and then it was just recently approved by the Common Council at Tuesday night's meeting, with the zoning text amendment allowing for private ambulance uses in the zoning code now cleared. The next step is for this conditional use. And whereas the zoning text allowed for the use in the zoning code, the conditional use addresses the specific site and the specific operational details with this request. So with that, you see on the screen and in your packet, the ambulance, it's an existing ambulance bay, and there's no real exterior changes or building and site modifications. This is just using the existing bay with a ambulance. In this case, it would be from Lifestar. And the just showing a little more detail, this is just kind of using the existing parking and drive approaches on the campus site. And based on the narrative and the application, it'll be a 24-hour per day, 365 days per year, one ambulance bay with a crew quarters using one of the Capri apartments. Generally, it'll be 2 crew members with the few occasions where there will be a trainee with them. And the estimate from the applicants is anywhere from maybe 1 to 10 calls per day. And then the real issue, understandably, is the use of sirens. This is a private ambulance services, so according to the applicant, this is primarily more than 90% by their estimate, non-emergent transportation-related calls, meaning no sirens. I think there will be, on those rare occasions where if this is the closest ambulance transport service and there is an emergency and it's life-threatening, then they are required to use the sirens. But again, based on their estimates, this is primarily a transportation type of service. And with that, staff recommends approval of the conditional use grant. And I may want to add, as a standard with conditional use grants in Port Washington, that we have a 12-month review. With that, I know the applicants are here if you have any questions.
Any questions or concerns? Otherwise, it's been reviewed. Somebody'd like to make the motion to approve?
I will make the motion to approve.
Motion by,
Recommendation.
there's a motion? I will second. Motion is second. Any questions or concerns? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's all set. Next piece is consideration and possible action on a request to amend section 485-164D of the City of Port Washington zoning code to add warehousing as a conditional use in the CCM Central City Mixed Zoning District. Anaran Holdings LLC is the applicant. The Planning Commission is being asked to provide a recommendation to the Common Council to add warehousing to the list of conditional uses in the CCM Central Mixed District. Mr. Harris.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a little detail here. And this is similar to the previous agenda item. We have an applicant requesting to add a use that does not fit into the current list of zoning uses for the zoning district in which they are looking at. In this case, this is a request by Anaran, which is also part of ANZI International. And we are dealing with an existing light industrial former printing and warehousing facility that was previously owned by Port Publications. And the applicant have purchased the site for warehousing and distribution of their imported goods from Luxembourg. But in order to accommodate that, we have to take that specific use and put that into the CCM zoning district, which this property is zoned. Little funny history here. This was previously an industrial area. It was previously a kind of a fish processing plant. And then when it was acquired by Port Publications for the printing and warehousing, they had to do a very similar maneuver. They had to put the specific use in this zoning district and, and to make this fit. At the time, we looked at rezoning it to industrial to keep warehouse use out of the CCM, which is largely residential. But similar to how it was with Port Publications, there was some discomfort with rezoning a CCM property industrial when it is just adjacent to residential housing. So we are doing literally the same zoning maneuver that we saw. I think it was, I can't recall, it was probably late 70s when this occurred. So just seeing this property a little more close up, this is the site on South Montgomery Street, just south of Chestnut. And just on the side view is just the existing facility. And just a little more context, this portion of South Montgomery essentially acts as an alley. The homes a lot on the street are actually, this is the rear of their homes, and the use is essentially an alley with the abutting detached garages, and you see the facility over onto the left. But in this case, we are just simply looking at adding the use and the intended use to the CCM district. And in this case, it does not fit in with printing and related facilities. In this case, it is for warehousing and temporary storage and wholesale distribution of wines, ciders, and malt beverages. And then also keeping the CCM type of residential districts in mind. We are in buildings not exceeding 7,000 square feet. And so that would be the suggested zoning text amendment, and staff does recommend that. We do have the applicant here if you have any questions, or if they want to make any comments.
Mr. Ehrlich?
Mr. Mayor. Actually, Ian, you're the one, obviously. Okay. Question I have is as far as the truck traffic, how are the things getting in and coming out? Is there a lot of truck traffic? Is it once a day? Is it, large trucks?
As well when we propose this, the idea to Bob. We have 2 to 3 shipments a year that come in on 1 truck each. Our day-to-day use is a van. In fact, you see it parked across the street pretty frequently in our parking lot. It says Beauforting in big letters on it. That's our primary mode of taking product out of there. So from a volume perspective, it has to be similar or probably a little bit less than what Port Publications was doing, in my opinion. And quite frankly, if we get any larger, that building won't be large enough to suit our needs. So I don't see that changing dramatically over time either.
Okay.
Paul wanted me to ask if you had brought any samples.
They are across the street. But no, I didn't.
Move to adjourn.
Are you going to light signage or anything, or with the?
No, we don't intend to change the character of like the brightness or the overall feel of the building. We've got some landscaping we'll be doing, some maintenance to the building, some improvements on long-term condition of the building. But no, our intent is just to keep it kind of in character with what's there, been there for years.
Okay, thank you.
Just real quick, if I may. This item, again, is just for allowing the requested use into the CCM zoning text. And should this zoning text amendment be approved by council, similar to the Capri item, Ian would come back with a conditional use grant request for this specific use at this specific site, again, and then with the site and operational details reviewed and approved by this body and then on to common council.
All right. Well, the staff recommends that the Plan Commission recommended the council to approve adding limited warehousing use as a conditional use in the CCM. Is there anyone willing to make that motion or have any more questions?
I will move to recommend the addition to the code. It seems like it is in keeping with the prior use in terms of traffic, and it's very specific, so I would move to recommend approval.
I'll second.
Moving to second. Any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Bob, I appreciated the historical context there. Yesterday's news is today's fish wrapping. That's kind of how I heard that. That was very interesting. And now it's a beer warehouse.
No, I actually, yeah, I kind of enjoy these sometimes, the history. These come up in the files when I'm starting to do my reports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That takes us to the third agenda item, or the fifth agenda item, conditional use, consideration of possible action on a conditional use grant to allow outdoor eating and drinking on the south side of Inventors Pub at 305 East Washington Street. TBF Development LLC and Adam Drager are the applicants. Planning Commission is being asked to provide a recommendation to the Common Council for a conditional use grant request to allow outdoor eating and drinking seating for the new Inventors Brew Pub and Edison Hall event space. Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So any outdoor eating and drinking use is a conditional use grant. And again, a conditional use grant is a type of planning commission item that goes first to the plan commission for their recommendation to the common council. And then at the common council level, we have a public hearing, and then that is the final approval at council. So the agenda item here is a recommendation to council. I did want to point out, and this was, I only realized it when preparing my files for tonight's meeting, you see this kind of the site plan in your packet. What I did not realize is that when I was converting over to the PDF for your packets, that the text box did not go with the site. So on the screen here, you'll see the intended version, what should have been in your packets, without the text, I can see where that may have been somewhat confusing or at least not very detailed. So let me walk you through the ask here. And so here we have the Inventors Brew Pub floor plan, and just seeing the loose Harbor Walk directional to the south, Lake Street to the east, and then you'll see where the proposed seating areas are located. Just a little more specifically, the approved site plan from the building was coming through. We have the ADA ramp, which is 4 feet in width, and that is shown just kind of between the two seating areas. The seating area will essentially take up the width, essentially the same width as the ADA ramp along the Harbor Walk. So that is, as you see the cross section, 4 feet, and that includes both the table chair seats that you see up in the screen in the photo above, a stationary kind of joint table chair, and then another 2 feet for kind of the ingress, egress in and out of the kind of the roped off seating and eating and drinking areas. And so what we did was we took a little closer look at kind of comparable sites on the Harbor Walk. And so we see down on the west slip, just a little under 9 feet in front of the mixed use in the residential buildings. And then over at the Harborview Hotel, just in front of that bar and patio area is 9.5 feet. And then a little closer to the site in question, we have 9 feet of Harbor Walks with at their outdoor dining at Dockside Deli. And then we have on the photo, just the 9.8 feet that we show that will be for the Inventors Brew Pub. And so that is really consistent seating throughout, really consistent Harbor Walk width throughout the entire north slip and west slip. And so with that, staff would recommend approval as presented. We have an applicant here for any questions.
Chad?
Yeah, so as in the past, I have abstained from any voting on anything to do since I am affiliated with this organization. But on recommendation of the city attorney, I'm actually going to step down before you have discussion of this, just so there is complete and open honesty amongst the panel.
Go across the street real quick with him.
Okay, I'll be right back then.
Grab some beer and some mustard. Thank you, Chad. I did have a question, Bob. In the sample that you had provided us, are they moving that furniture over to the lake, or is this just a sample of what they're going to build and put in?
You want to take those questions?
Cam, come on up here.
Sure. Sorry.
You don't record otherwise.
All right. Yes, we do plan to bring those Lakeview benches from 1.0 over to our new location. And those are 4 of them right there. We would like to build probably another 4 of them for those same seatings to stretch from the east to the west side of the building.
Okay. I mean, I have zero opposition to this to sit there. One question that was sent to me was, with those out there, obviously you'll have to maintain them, but in the closed hours, the non-operating hours, the public, are they going to be brought in and out, or does public have access to those?
The public will have access, yeah.
Okay.
They will be kept outside.
Awesome. Awesome. Other questions?
My only question is if you like have a cup of coffee in your hand and you want to sit down, can you sit down there and have your cup of coffee, or do you have to go in and buy something?
Good question. They would be in dining hours. They would be reserved for the pub. But if it's early morning, before the time that we're open, it's free game.
Yeah, I support it. I mean, I think it's totally fitting.
Yeah, it's funny you asked that, Eric, because somebody else asked me that same question. I said, well, would you just walk up to a table at Twisted Willow and sit down there and start petting your dog in the middle of dining hour? And they were like, no. I'm like, well, then why would you do it at Inventor Brew Pub? So I guess I quietly defended you guys. Roger?
Yeah, I guess I want to start by saying I'm in favor of this proposal. I do have a couple of questions or concerns. putting on my engineering stormwater hat, I guess, make sure we're not getting litter, debris, somebody's not throwing one of the chairs into the lake. Attraction of seagulls with foods. So that kind of stuff will be, I guess, to keep it minimized. It is use of public space, and that this, I guess we're all aware, this is a sensitive site, the residents in Port Washington, but I think having outdoor dining will add some energy and excitement to the area, and then there's still, in my opinion, plenty of room to gather, but I guess,
And we will have systems, daily systems in place to keep that clean and sprayed down and swept.
okay. Yeah, I mean, and that would be part of it, like, make sure your staff knows not to just hose it into the lake when they're cleaning up, sweep it up, broom it, and then spray down any dust. Yeah, so that's really my concerns. Like, you know, I guess the other thing with the debris in the lake, that's where you get your water that you make your beer. So,
So,
They're not pulling it from the lake though, Roger. Like, I'm being sarcastic.
Well, yes.
They're out there scooping fresh lake water to brew their beer.
oh,
just
I don't.
when the
I
alewives
assume not.
Just when the Alewives
Assuming
are
we're
in
getting
it.
it from the tap from our port water.
I know. I did have one question, though, that was raised by a resident, which was because of the proximity to the lake, other restaurants along the lake do not have plastic straws. They use paper, stuff like that. Has that been considered, that it's all sustainable, that what goes in and out?
I'm sorry,
So
using.
like if
plastic-
I have a beverage that has a straw in it, is it gonna, like, I think the other lakefront organizations don't use plastic, things that would float, things that could dissolve that are more sustainable, no foam, things like that.
you're talking like if they end up in the lake, that's
Yeah,
why they.
yeah, your garbage, that it's actually biodegradable. Just a consideration. Because I have a
definitely
feeling if
consider
it's
that.
not, we would be looking at ordinance like no plastic bags blown into the water, stuff like that. To Roger's point. All right, Mr. Ehrlich?
So alcohol is going to be served here, obviously. So you're going to rope it off. What is this rope going to look like? Is it going to be, I'd like to know, is it going to be something that's substantial? Is it going to be just a rope and, some stands or?
I mean, it would definitely be aesthetically pleasing. I don't think we have anything like, exact right now.
Okay. Bob, can you help me remember just what was planned originally? I don't recall what we originally approved for the plan. I mean, this was, I think it
was
was all
discussed.
talked about.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was discussed in the whole buildup and the conversation
Right.
about the width and if.
Right.
We had asked questions like, do you plan on outdoor seating, outdoor dining?
Right.
We had
because
a pretty rigorous conversation about the width of the sidewalk and ensuring that whatever was done, that there would still be passer space, et cetera.
Right, and I think what we really, from what I understand, we talked quite a bit about that we wanted to keep it so that it was as wide as possible.
Yeah.
I do think that going less than 9'8" or 9.8 feet, I'd like to make it as wide as possible. And so if you can stay within that 4 feet, that 48 inches, I'm good with it. I think it would be a nice addition to the Harbor Walk.
Any other questions? Roger?
Just one more, I mean, I am in favor of your chairs and tables that you are setting up for that reason. They are lining up against the wall and
Right.
not sitting across from each other like at a round table, so.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Ryer?
Is there anything that they need to do with the liquor license, like a premises description, just to make sure they don't get too far along and then find out that there's some sort of a?
Yeah, they've been, since this application was submitted, they've been working with the city clerk on the alcohol license and whatever changes, if any.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a recommendation from staff to approve the conditional use grant requests. I've heard no amendments to that, so is there someone willing to make that motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ehrlich, is there a second?
Second.
Roger, thank you. All right, any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have one abstention. Did you get that, Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Okay. All right. With that then, our next conversation will be around the 2024 Plan Commission Charter. Just as a reminder to the commission, you'll be invited again to attend the BCC meeting, that's the boards, commissions, and committees, to review kind of expectations of our role here as we sit. And the charter that you see tonight, each of the boards, commissions, and committees is asked to adopt a charter each year in alignment with our cascading strategic plan. So the city adopted a strategic plan last year with the idea that each of the board, commissions, and committees would then align up a charter that brought us to the objectives as laid out in the strategic plan. One of the things that I just wanted to make sure you know tonight is we're short one commissioner, and I'm not going to be reappointing that commissioner. The commissioner who, and the reason is because on the Park and Rec Board, the Park and Rec Board appoints someone from the Park and Rec Board to sit on the Planning Commission. I'm asked for a ordinance to be drafted, or our ordinance to be amended, so that we have an additional appointment to the Planning Commission that is not coming from Park and Rec, but is another Planning Commission member. Reason being that Park and Rec, and the idea in the past was the Park and Rec committee would send someone up here to represent solely what's going on at Park and Rec. Well, Port Washington is facing significant development in the future. And my wondering for council to review is increasing the amount of professionally, intentionally appointed people on the Planning Commission as we move forward and grow as a city to ensure that we have the different stakeholders represented. I think we would all be representing Park, and Mr. Harris and the city. We're also going to be working towards a process that any new development as it comes to us has gone through a thorough kind of checklist, like it's been reviewed by police and fire for impact, been reviewed by Park and Rec for impact, been reviewed by, and that they would bring up recommendations. So if we have development, say to the south, eventually Park and Rec, Police and Fire would be sending as part of the report, we would like to see a 2-acre park in there that included blah, 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 blah. Instead of leaving it to an appointed person from another appointment and then having experts at the table. I met with our new superintendent, or potentially new superintendent, shared with him the role on our board, because we passed an ordinance a year ago that the school district superintendent would sit on the Planning Commission as a non-voting member, but an informative member. So we'll have these seats filled then, potentially. So that ordinance is going to come potentially in front of the council next month. So I'm holding on that appointment until then, with the idea of us becoming more strategic with this planning piece, because we're going to start to see here in May and June, we're going to start to review police and fire safety center. We're going to be reviewing potential development downtown again as a result of the police and fire station moving from there. And I'd really like this to be some appointed people with unique expertise, landscaping, engineering, architecture, policy, et cetera. So I just want to make sure you knew that and you didn't read that in the paper, or you just didn't get some weird email that was out of context. So with that, Mr. Harris, I'm going to turn it over to you for our input on the charter.
Yeah, so real quick, this is the discussion item, and I think my thinking was that I will kind of go over what was put in the charter for this past year, for 2023, what came out of that, and then my ideas for what should be in the charter for this coming year, which, it's April. We can always play catch up for 2024, but also kind of give it over to the commission for any of your thoughts, inputs on anything rounding out that you would think should get into this 2024 charter. And then after this discussion, I'll come back next month and we would approve the charter and go off of that. So real quick, just a real one slide summary of where we were, what we did, and then where we're going. So if you recall back early 23, we had 5 strategic goals for our Plan Commission charter. And that was complete the downtown plan, begin our zoning code rewrite, and then also the ordinance relating to the building heights downtown, garages and the allowance of accessory dwelling units, and also review sign code for amendments. So technically, as far as the Plan Commission is concerned, 4 of the 5 we've completed. Certainly, the downtown plan is adopted. The zoning code rewrite is underway, and I'll get into a little more detail in the next box. And this body did recommend approval to building heights and ADU considerations. Those items are still being, well, at least for the zoning code building heights, it's actually a complicated ordinance given the different zones of height. So I've been working with the city attorney to come up with a correct zone ordinance that will plug into those differing zoning heights in the downtown in the B4 district. And then with the ADU consideration, that ADU standalone ordinance is done, and I think it's a good ordinance. It's a complete ordinance. But at the last council meeting for ADU consideration, there was a desire to pair it with short-term rentals. And so the city attorney is working on that portion, and they would package that up and consider it probably in June, but don't hold me to that. And then lastly, with the sign code amendments, I think we just got a bit of a full plate with those other 4 items, plus the regular monthly agenda items. And so what we'll do is, since it is part of their charge already, we'll just be wrapping that up in part of the zoning code rewrite. And much of that will be occurring beginning, well, now through all of this year and early next year. And that kind of dovetails with what I had in mind for this upcoming 24 plan charter. Obviously, the zoning rewrite is going to be the bulk of what myself and the commission will be seeing on a monthly basis. And with that, I anticipate quarterly meetings with our consulting team with this body. We anticipate 2 joint committee of the whole and plan commission meetings during this process. And then lastly, beginning in May, you'll start getting monthly staff updates from myself on where we are and where we're going. And then lastly, as far as the charter non-zoning code rewrite is, and this kind of goes with what the mayor has discussed or kind of previewed with as far as getting interdepartment input into the Plan Commission in a little more, strategic and a little more calculated way, and revising the staff reports that you see in your packets. Frankly, they take me a lot longer time than I am comfortable with, and so I think if I can get a little more efficient with what is kind of goes on to that staff report, I think we'll have a better product. And then so when we break this into discussion just in a minute or two, if please let me know either tonight or just in an email saying, you've been getting these packets for a bit now, and have you ever given any thought of what you'd like to see different or what works? Please let me know, and then I plan on having a new staff report this summer. With that, I'll just turn it over to the commission for discussion of any other thoughts and input on the 24 Plan Commission Charter, and I will listen and come back to you with a final product in May.
I'll start just to spark conversation. So, Bob, one of the things that I would like us to do here in May is to talk about a comprehensive plan of how to support you in, the attraction of development, and how do we more intentionally and strategically create the conditions in the city for shovel-ready projects, work with landowners to really get a proactive gauge on what they're thinking, where they're going, so that we can, as a planning commission, prep for that, and then work, obviously, with engineering to ensure that, the city's infrastructure is ready to go. We've got multiple developers on the north side, south side of town within the community who own properties who are really waiting for the city to kind of step in. So like to kind of see what that would look like from the city planner's perspective, because you're both the city planner and in charge of the attraction and development and working and those different components. So to just kind of see what type of a result, key performance indicator we could measure of what's the city's intentional attraction of development, so we can kind of manage that and support that. The city council is going to do a sit-down kind of reflection exercise here in the end of May, and we're going to be talking about in these charters, what are now the results that we should be monitoring throughout the year, and what do the measures look like. So you're getting the early heads up. Because working right along with Public Works, I know we're doing some engineering studies on the south side, but there are people who desire water on the north side of the interstate and all those other pieces. So to have that come from you would be great. The only other thing, Bob, that I have for you is in the city council, in our packet, you always put in a nice little, the monthly staff report. Could you start adding that into the planning commission report so they could see that component too? I think that's very powerful for them and for us. And then the last thing is on our actual agenda, Bob, for that feedback that you're asking for, we need to put the plus deltas back in there and then bring that back so that I remember to ask for that feedback for you of what's going well and what we should change in the future. Help you with your efficiencies. Otherwise, let's get that signage thing done. That's low-hanging fruit for us compared to last year. Other thoughts or ideas for Bob to build into that charter as he works with our city administrator and our strategic plan?
I would agree. I think it's nice to see what the follow-up and final action is on some of the projects, unless you read the paper or whatever, just some sort of this recommendation was made and this is what actually happened. That would be nice just to see like if it changed or if it stayed the same.
It's interesting you say that because we make some recommendations. I've had a lot of property owners where, we tell them like, put in potato vines or we'd like to see arborvitae. And then they go and do it. And then they realize nobody ever comes and checks. Nobody cared. And it's like we kind of put these hurdles in place. So it would be nice to have that follow through to say like, oh, look, they did it. So I like that idea. My very first planning commission, Commissioner Matera was talking about putting potato vines on the concrete wall at the old auto parts store. And I sat here stunned. Like, what is it? I don't even know what a potato vine is. But he did. Yeah, as do most things that grow. Other thoughts or ideas for Mr. Harris?
I'm looking forward to the committee of the whole meetings, I think the committee of the whole meetings would be beneficial for everyone, so we're all on we're going down the same path, so the committees aren't going off between council and planning and other committees, and we're all focused on the same end result, which I don't think we have been in the past. We've been getting much better at it, but I think Eric's point too, is that the little short report said, we've accomplished this is coming next, because I get questions from people all the time, what do you mean this was approved? Yeah, it was approved, well, we never see anything. So just, when we can include some of that snippets in the city newsletter too, that then people refer to it right away and they know what's going on. Thank you.
I would say, I agree with pretty much everything that's been said so far. And yeah, one of the things that I guess I've noticed as, one of the newer members here is continuing to improve our intercommunication with the other committees, right? A lot of times, unless I happen to catch a YouTube video of like what you guys did on Tuesday, it's like, oh yeah, you did approve what we approved, and or you disagreed a few times, and it's like, oh, why? So just, that sort of communication back and forth around will, I think, all help us be pointing in the right direction as we, with all of this stuff coming up. We want to make sure we're all pointing in the right direction, not fighting each other.
Yeah. Roger, any other perspectives from a staff lens or community lens or?
Not really. I guess I do have the privilege of being able to walk across the room to talk to Bob about, hey, we need to do this, or this needs to get done.
Yeah.
So nothing really to add to here.
Okay. Any other comments for Bob? Otherwise, Bob, what are you hearing from us?
Some excellent ideas.
Oh. You are out of order.
I have some good, I got good feedback for what you want to see in your packets. And the follow-ups will be, you'll see that. And then we're going to be discussing what I like, is the viewing on development and some of those bigger issues that are out there in the city. And, I can I'll discuss that. But I do, as far as what you want to see, that was really good as far as, the monthly reports, and that kind of goes in with what Commissioner Ryer says about, what happened to this or what happened to that, and we can just kind of wrap those two together.
Yeah.
And then, hopefully I'll even have, I have a little more efficient type of staff report where I can just, rather than just kind of writing a little essay each month, I can just, it's a lot of just, fill in the box type of items. So you get a little more, it checks this box, it checks this box, and it checks this box.
Excellent. And the one that I said this today in a meeting internally with when we were talking about the potential police and fire safety center with what will happen downtown. I really, really want us to work hard to work the plans that we adopt. The time and effort that goes into community voice and choice, we've got to honor that. So like when we have a downtown plan that we've adopted or a zoning code plan or a building heights plan, like we need to stick to that. And I think that's really important. So sometimes when recommendations come, if we see new development in downtown areas or et cetera, I'd like the report for the record to be very specific of, we said, we agreed, and the community asked for. So it is not our recommendation to go 31.5 feet to allow them whatever on the top because we said 30 feet. So that we can really maintain calling balls and strikes and then position Mr. Harris when he's meeting with people in pre-meetings to say, this is the plan, this is the variance, and we will not even recommend it. But if you'd like to try, you can, and we stand firm on those things. Got to honor people's voices. So thank you for that, Bob. Okay, well, with that, our last agenda item is either to listen to a Whitesnake song or to adjourn.
So move to adjourn.
Darn, I really wanted to listen to Whitesnake. Mr. Ryer moved to adjourn. Mr. Newmeyer seconded that motion. Any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, this meeting is adjourned.